What is up, Terps fans? Welcome into another Shell Shock experience. I'm Matt Moderno. The Terp legend joining me here today is James Gist. James, one of my favorite players. We're around the same age here, so I had a great time watching you at Maryland. You made my college experience more fun than it would have been otherwise. So thank you for all you did in the Terps uniform. And how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it, and it's just good to be here. It's good to be here, but I'm doing well.
Very cool. Before we get into this, I just want to run down the bio here a little bit. At the time of your graduation, I finished fourth all time in program history with 231 block shots, 10th in rebounds with 783, 17th in points with 1,414. Had a huge senior season, averaged 16, 8, 2.5 blocks. Second team All-ACC defensive team, which was awesome and well-deserved. And second round draft pick to the San Antonio Spurs. So just an amazing college career, had an amazing international career here, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But first, we are brought to you by Vision Media Solutions, the top media management group in the DMV. See them for web design, videography, everything, and more. So, James, you are not overseas right now. You're here in the U.S., which made this a lot easier scheduling-wise to not have to worry about time zones or anything. So just catch listeners up on what you're doing and what you're up to.
Yeah, no, I'm back home now. Honestly, I've just unofficially but officially kind of retired, from playing basketball. Now I've been training kids at this gym in Rockville called Profit, and that's kind of been something that I've been doing in the meantime. I've been trying to transition into coaching. That's really been a passion of mine my last few years of playing basketball. Really, for a while, I always wanted to be a coach. I felt like that once I was done playing, I was going to be a head coach one day. And so now I just feel like I'm at that point right now to where I just want to teach the game. I still have gas in the tank to play. I still love the game, man. I love it a lot. But this was the first time that I came home this summer. My last season was playing in Indonesia with a team named Prawira, 2 hours from Jakarta. It was a beautiful city, hot, amazing. People were really cool. I enjoyed it out there. But I came home, and that was the first time that I was like, I don't know if I want to go back. Not necessarily to Indonesia or just anything, but it was like to play. I was getting offers, I had teams calling, and it was kind of like I left it on red. I was leaving it on red. Like I wasn't even entertaining it. It wasn't just because I didn't want to play. It was just, I don't know. I just didn't have that. I wanted to teach now. I felt like, after playing at a level so high for so long, being under coaches like Gary Williams, getting drafted, playing, under Greg Popovich. When I was in Greece, I got a chance to play under Rick Pitino for a year.
Awesome. Yeah.
So through my career, I've just been under, just a standard of playing so high, playing for championships. And the last couple of years just hasn't been like that. And so for me, I just want to teach now. I want to teach. So coaching has been my aspiration, and that's kind of what I'm getting into right now.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. You're one of those players that you could see the IQ with the way you play. So I think the things that you can pass down to this generation, I think, is even more well served by playing overseas and bring some of that like European knowledge, over here. I think is great for kids as they develop, because one of the things I want to ask you about is just sort of, the developmental differences between guys, how they learn the game here versus overseas. It just seems like whatever they're doing to teach the game right now internationally is maybe leading to more, I don't know, free flowing, ball movement centric basketball than what we're doing over here.
It's just it's like tomato. You kind of two different styles of how people say it or how people do it. In America, we've always had more athletic players. We've always had players that are the highlight reel types. Europe has usually produced players that weren't as athletic but could really fundamentally play the game, like Arvydas Sabonis or like a Vlade Divac, or and that's just bigs. Dries and Petrovic. Take it to guards. Guys that were really skilled but weren't as, let's say, athletic.
Sure.
And the way that they do it overseas, they have academies, they have schools, where these kids are like going to school. They're going to school, but the school is like basketball
for the basketball first, right? Like
you get credits. You get credits for your classes. You actually have these classes during the day, but like your lunchtime is practice. That's or cool. your study hall is skill work. I don't know. Like these kids are here for hours. When I played in Serbia, after I got released from San Antonio, my first year in EuroLeague with Partizan, I played with Jan Vesley, who I got drafted number 6 to the Wizards that next season, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's on the Atlanta Hawks right now. Yep. He was on the junior team. That's cool. And before we would go to practice, Serbia, they're 2 practices. It's 2 practices a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. And when we would get to practice, Bogdan was there, an hour before doing work because he was a junior. He was a junior player. They had the young players in there like hours before doing their skill work and everything, and then they would do the practice with us. Afterwards, they would have to stay after to get up extra shots. So then before we come back to our evening practice, they're in there before, they're in there after. This is just a constant thing every day. And so they're developing, players like this all across Europe like this. And in America, we do it, but on the sense of how the game is played. It's more possessions over here. They want more possession. They want more shots. Teams are taking like 53 pointers now. It's crazy, So it's like it's a different kind of style of basketball that we're teaching, and a different style of basketball that they're teaching. And the fundamental of it is just different. That's what it is.
That's super interesting, and I want to pull that out a little bit more. Also, just want to say congratulations on an amazing career. It's been really cool to follow, and just. You've done the Terps proud throughout. So just happy to see that. And it seems like you're in a good place about it too. It's kind of nice that you can go out on your own terms. It's not an injury related thing. Like you got some gas left in the tank if you want to chase some of these young guys around out there too, which is probably makes it a little bit easier, I would think too.
Yeah, definitely. That was the biggest thing, going out on my own terms, still having a good quality of life and being able, I have 3 kids now, 2 sons and a daughter. So just being able to enjoy time with them growing up now, especially spending time at home. Being gone 16 years, I haven't been able to do a lot. The things that I have been able to do, I always had the pressure in the back of my mind of I'm probably about to leave soon. If I get this phone call, I got to leave, got to get everything go. That's always been my lifestyle. But now I just don't have that pressure in the back of my mind that I'm leaving anytime soon. It's more so like, I'm waiting for the opportunity when it comes to coaching. That's what I've been looking for. And in the meantime, again, I'm just doing skill building and fundamentals with kids out of Rockville.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen you at some Terps games, maybe doing some media stuff afterwards and things like that too. Is that another thing you want to get a little more into?
That's just something that I got an opportunity. Mr. Wayne Viner, he's helped me with that. It's something that he's been doing for a while for the Terps with Terp Talk. And I went to a golf tournament out in Ocean City beginning of October. And we had a conversation. I told him, I was just trying to get into coaching, so at the end of the day, I've been gone for 16 years, playing. And then now that I'm back home, I have to get my face back out there. I haven't been around, kind of out of sight, out of mind. Sure. So it's just a way to kind of get my face back around, let people know that I'm home and that I am interested in doing it. And it's been something that over the past month or so, I've kind of like enjoyed doing it, because cool. You just sit around, you talking basketball. It's something that
you would do that anyway, right? You talking about the game.
You do that anyway. And so as a player, you dissect the game. I've always been a student of the game. Coach Gary Williams taught me that, to be a student of the game. So that's just something I've always done. So when I watch the game, I watch it from a different perspective. So it's just cool to be able to give that perspective, on a public platform. But at the same time, coaching is still my aspiration.
Yeah, it's nice you can do both. And I think it's a different way to teach the game to different people, not just guys coming up, but fans listening to it too. I think get something out of that as well. And also this is just a pretty fun Terps team to get to talk about, I think so far too.
Definitely. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
Maybe let's just we'll transition to that here for a second. Just this year's basketball team, I guess, just sort of what's the initial thought? What's the ceiling for this team? How are you enjoying this group so far?
I'm enjoying it because we got a lot of weapons, man. We got a lot of weapons, a lot of exciting factors surrounding the team. Of course, the big highlight is Derek Queen, the freshman, who's just been a standout player. Juju Reese, who's a senior this year, he's been showing a solid showing so far. Still waiting for him to come along, and get really comfortable. But so far, he's really been putting up good numbers, and that's a huge thing to have a strong interior like we have right now. And then you got to add the guards like Gillespie and Rice, and Miguel. These guys are really good. And even DHS, I really like Deshaun Harris, Gapari has really stepped up. He's really stepped up. He's showing me exciting,
He had a couple of James Gist dunks going out there recently. I saw some flashback moments.
I was doing the in the media section just watching it, and he did the pump fake in the corner against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I stood up before he dunked it because in my mind, I just played it out like you got to one dribble dunk this.
Absolutely.
And he did it. So the highlight came, and it's like, he's one of those players that can really get the fans out of their seats. And that's what I would like to see. I would like to see Xfinity Center like really popping again. It seats 17, 18,000. There's no reason it can't be full. Guys like Kapari, guys like Quinn, guys like, Rice and Gillespie, they really can fire the team up and fire the stands up. And that would be huge because the fans are like a six man. They're like a six man, and that's something huge. And Maryland has a huge ceiling this year that they can really reach.
You mentioned the front court there of Derek Queen and Julian Reese. Like, you played with some other good front court players yourself in your time in College Park. You played with Kenny Ebekwe. You played next to Bombali Osby. Like, you guys were all kind of different, but how do you make that work when you're sharing a front court with another guy like that? And I don't know, for you, like, there was probably less overall spacing on the court, then than there is now. Like, how do you kind of make those things work?
You have to adjust. It depends on your bigs, but my thing is that the bigs have to have a relationship on the court. For me, Bombali and Akene, when I was at Maryland, we were one of the top defensive teams in the country, and part of that was because we could time each other's, defensive assignments and come from the weak side for the blocks, and that's how we averaged like 2 or 3 blocks a game. Those were the things that we could just play off of. When it came to alley-oops, we knew that we all could play above the rim, so it was one of those things where we were driving, we knew where to deliver the ball, so we were comfortable with that. And having that relationship with the big interior, it creates the defense to have to, close in. And Maryland this year has shooters. We have shooters. We got Rice. We have Gillespie. Miguel's capable of knocking down shots. Kapari has shown that he can knock down a shot or two. I mean, even Quinn has showed, last game he stepped out and knocked down a shot or two. So, I mean, you have shooters. So, I mean, that's something that you really have to expose. And so with that relationship with Quinn and Reese, you have to expose that, having Reese running the baseline area because he's strong and he finishes under the basket very well. And Quinn can pass. He's a very good facilitator,
he really
very
is.
Playmaker, and a very good scorer, in a one-on-one situation. So it forces the defense to have to help. They could have a great relationship, and if they could come together good, I think it opens up a lot for everybody else.
Yeah, I think you start to see it clicking a little bit more of the time in each of these games.
More and more every game, and that's why it's like, what can Maryland really do?
Yep.
They went into Purdue. Purdue was ranked 8th in the country. They just came off a tough loss to Pitt before. So it was like, all right, they had to get a win. And Maryland came in and showed some real grit, some real attitude, some real character. And I think every game they've been doing better and better. And Coach Willard has been doing a great job with that.
Yeah, Mackey's a tough place to win. And if you play them basically to a standstill, I think that's a good performance, even though they didn't walk out of there with the win.
Yeah, I had an ex-teammate when I played in Bayern Munich, Juwan Johnson, who was an ex-player for Purdue. So, I mean, we've been back and forth on the message. And unfortunately, I had to kind of tip my hat. Y'all got a good win, but don't act like it was easy. Don't act like it was easy.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it was easy.
Yeah, that's awesome. He was another great player. Him, Etwan Moore, Robbie Hummel. That was a really good Purdue core there.
Yeah.
Is there a member of this particular Terps team that you think would have been fun to play with or play next to? Like one guy where you're like, oh, like we would have had a good 2-man game or something.
It'd probably be Queen.
Okay.
It'd probably be Queen, honestly, because I would play well off of him. I mean, the fact that he could play, make the plays and stuff like that, make the passes, and the way I could finish around the rim,
Yeah. I'm already picturing it. That would be cool.
For the people that don't know, I mean, I wish there was more highlights out there when I was playing, because believe me, it would definitely be, I was above the rim, Skywalkers, that's what it was.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think any Terp fan listening to this knows exactly what we're talking about here. So very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this one goes and looking forward to more coverage from you for throughout the season here too. So should be awesome to watch. Had an amazing overseas career, like we mentioned here. Just a couple of the accolades for people not familiar. An ABA League champion, Serbian League champion, Serbian Cup winner, Serbian Cup MVP, 6-time Greek Cup winner. And the Greek League is especially, brutal and contentious. And 5-time Greek League champion, 3-time All-Greek League defensive teams, 3-time All-Greek League second team, 4 All-Greek All-Star games, Pro A League champion. Championships all around, man. Like you were just racking them up here. All-decade team in the EuroLeague, which is, is amazing to get nominated for. only player to score 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 200 steals in that time frame from 2010 to 2020. Just, incredibly decorated, if everybody can tell from listening to that. Was there stuff that you learned at Maryland that you think kind of helped facilitate that, of like things that translated well to having that level of success internationally, especially?
I think part of it was just having an intense coach like Gary Williams.
Sure.
It was contagious, how he was. And I think that's what his demand was, that his players thrived off of how he was and his energy. Yeah. You couldn't be on the court unless you wanted it more than anybody else. Sure. We were a press team. We played man to man. We tried to get steals. We forced you to half court. And we played fast-paced basketball. We wanted to get up. We wanted to get dunks. We had Mike Jones shooting threes from almost half court. And Chris McCray, Nick Medley. They were doing all kind of stuff out there. DJ Strawberry. It was very exciting. And so having that and playing in front of a fan base like Maryland, like I said, we had 18,000 people at the game all the time. Yep. And so it was a great time in the ACC. I was exposed to playing in front of big crowds. I was exposed to playing at a high level and being intense all the time. And so that was just something that was kind of ingrained in me early. It was ingrained in me early. Going to San Antonio, seeing how they, San Antonio was always one of the top defensive teams in the league. When they were going through their championship runs, they were always 1 or 2. Sure. Ended up in the finals and winning the finals. So that was just always something, I don't know, that I've been lucky to be a part of, but that's just the type of player I've always been. So that's just something that I've always brought to every team that I played on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, playing overseas is not for the faint of heart. Like there's stuff that comes with it. Like you got to be mentally prepared for that. And Gary put you through your paces enough too. So you've probably seen a lot of things by the time you got over there anyway.
I did. Honestly, I grew up in a military family. For a lot of people, I was born in Turkey. My dad was in the Air Force. I was born in the Air Force base out there. I didn't spend a lot of time there. I think I left after I was a year old. But I traveled a lot when I was young before I settled in D.C. when I was about 8 years old, 7, 8 years old. And that kind of gave me the precursor to be able to have a successful international career. Because, you got to be able to adjust to different cultures. It's not like America. It's not the same. And the style of play is not the same as America. And you got to get used to that, too, very quick. Because in Europe, players come and go. It can be a very disposable system if you're not ready to adjust to a system very quick. So that's just something that I had to get used to and learn. But I feel like, I was prepared, going through the things that I did. And Coach Williams, one of the things he taught me was to be a student of the game. I studied the game. We watched a lot of film. We studied it, and we didn't just watch the game to see, who scored and who didn't score. He broke it down, from play by play and how plays built up, momentum swings, everything like that. And so that was just something that I really paid attention to, and it helped me out through my career, honestly.
You mentioned the other coaches that you got to play for, and I'm sure there are a lot of high-level, international names that the folks here aren't as familiar with too. But was there a unique thing about Gary? Like the intensity, obviously, kind of always stands out from a fan watching perspective. But was there any particular thing that he did with you guys that kind of set him apart? I guess.
The crazy thing is, and I hope this answers your question. Coach Gary Williams, Coach Rick Pitino, and Coach Greg Popovich they all had kind of different philosophies, sure. As far as coaching. Clearly, they're all Hall of Fame coaches, very successful in their careers. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that they were all very, very similar on was the zero tolerance for nonsense.
Okay.
Zero tolerance for nonsense. They understood the details was what mattered when it came to winning and losing, especially mm-hmm. in big games. And their mentality was never just playing to either make the playoffs or just to make the tournament. Their mentality was to win, to win the championship. And it's one thing to make the playoffs or to make, the game to win or to get there. It's another thing to just have that mentality like, no, we're winning this season. And that was their mentality and everything that they did in their approach. And that's something that was similar between all three. And a lot of the coaches that I had overseas, like you said, that a lot of people might not be familiar with, but some great coaches that I came across, just had that mentality. So through my career, I've understood what it took to win. I've seen how you can lose. I've seen what works and I've seen what doesn't work. I've seen a lot, and I've learned and took something from every coach and every team that I played on.
If I were somebody filling out a staff right now, just given the guys that you just listed that you played for, the places you've been, the styles of play, I think that would be such a huge leg up for somebody to have on their coaching staff. Someone who could just go into the mental Rolodex and pull out a couple, all right, this might work against this. Because once
Yeah,
you've seen it all, like you learn the counters for it and,
right.
you see different wrinkles. It's like, oh, here's how you adjust to that.
You know what's crazy? Matt, I had a coach from Spain, very popular in Europe. His name is Xavi Pascual. He spent about 10 years in Barcelona, won the championship there.
Mhm.
And I had the opportunity to be coached by him in Greece for the team Panathinaikos that I played for.
Mhm.
And during that season, I ended up getting hurt. I got hurt for the first time in my career where I had to have surgery. And I was out for about 4 months. And during that time, I was out rehab and doing surgery, and I got back in March. I got hurt in November. I came back in March, and I was preparing to get back for our game against Real Madrid.
Mhm.
And I asked the coach, could he send me, the plays so I can go over the plays so I'm kind of prepared to play,
Sure.
and not messing everything up. I'm watching the games, but it's different. I got to see it on paper.
Yeah.
They sent me a PDF file, and the PDF file is 117 pages.
Good luck with that.
It's 117 pages. When I tell you, it's plays after plays after plays after plays. And he was such a technical coach, and he expected you to know all of them. Like,
Sure.
honestly, he expected to know all of them because it was a play for every situation. There was no defensive situation that you could have as a coach or system that he didn't have a play to counteract it. It's just a matter of we made the shot or made the read, to finish the play. And that was the hardest thing to guard about him. As a coach, I remember when he was in Barcelona, you couldn't guard him because it was like he has too many plays. You kind of just had to guard the situations.
Right.
You're playing against Juan Carlos Navarro, and he's coming off screens. It's like,
Good luck.
you have no idea how to guard that. And even, Shotters, Jesse Cavages, who played at Maryland, who we played against him, he was a great player in those systems. And to have something like that, you got to be strategic. And I've seen all of it. I've seen all of it. And it just gives me that kind of one-up. It gives me that passion that I can't wait to just have the opportunity.
I think a lot of the things you see now that are becoming popular here in the States are things that people came up with and popularized internationally. And it's like, we're learning from them, things that we can incorporate into the college game, into the NBA game, like, getting a head start on a lot of those things, before they're trendy here, I think is another advantage too.
Right. Everything's catching up. The world games, you're starting to see that the international game has now become more equal. It's not so much America's up here and the international game is down here. Basketball is a universal game. They play it all over the world, and you're seeing in the NBA, the transition. The last few MVPs, have just been international based, haven't been American based. And even this year, the international guys are killing the game. And so you want to see the game here develop, even more. And so to have that, you want to bring guys in that can help, establish that and help bring that kind of identity here. And it's not that it's not going like that now. You have the transition going on. It's the transition period now, but you want to bring more and more guys on board like that.
Yeah, I mean, if any coaching staff can get a head start on those things, it's a huge advantage. I think before everybody's got the counters and things like that worked out over here too. So, any coaches listening to this looking to fill out a staff, give our guy here a call.
Please,
James, just any favorite moment that you think of, like when someone asks you about like your Maryland experience, is there a one sort of thing that stands out above all else?
It's a tie, man. It's a tie between the Maryland Midnight Madnesses, coming out.
Those are cool.
Those things were just really exciting. Being a player, because it was like your first introduction to the season. Being a freshman, my first time doing that was amazing. My freshman year, I won at Duke. Cameron Indoor, we came home. And campus was rioting, and helicopters in the skies. We had a police escort.
We do it right. Yeah,
it was an amazing feeling to be a part of that. Because Cameron Indoor and Coach K, is so historical. To have that, and Coach Williams was one of the most winning coaches to play there and get wins there. So that was a big thing. But then my senior year, we beat North Carolina. They were 17-0 on the season, and we handed them their first loss at Carolina in the Dean Dome. Cool. Me, Gravis Vasquez, Bombali Osby, we all played, all the guys. We had a great game there. 25,000. I can't forget that moment. So it's like, you have those moments. So it's really a tie between all those, and then experiencing my time in the NCAA tournament my junior year. It's too many to say like which one was more. There's so many.
Those are great ones. Yeah, absolutely. I remember the North Carolina game, especially there, and just watching that from afar. It was just, I don't know, sitting in a dorm room watching that. Everybody was going nuts. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was huge. It was huge to get that win. We're making a push. We had a good team, but the ACC was so tough, man. The ACC was so tough.
Yeah, for sure.
And you want to take 5 or 6 teams, but you could really only take 4. At the time. And so we were barely making it in or barely making it out those years. But we had a really good team. We had some really exciting moments.
Just hearing stories like that, man, I still, I'm old school, I guess. I haven't gotten around. I still mentally think of us as an ACC school and not a Big Ten school. It just sort of hasn't fully clicked for me yet, even 10 plus years later.
I understand it. It's just different, what we all grew up on. We all grew up on seeing Maryland versus Duke. We all grew up seeing Maryland and North Carolina, or Maryland and Clemson, Maryland and Virginia. Those were the games, Georgia Tech. Those were the big games, that everybody was up for. The fans were sleeping outside a Coldfield House, a week before, waiting for tickets to go on sale so they could get in. That was just a thing, But the Big Ten move was not a bad move at all.
Yeah,
they've been successful, for the most part. They got some Big Ten championships. They've made some runs over the years, and it's been shown to be well. They've done a good job.
Yeah, it's a great league to be in, and there's a lot of good teams, and gives you a lot of resume builder throughout the season here too. Mentioned another ACC school there in Virginia, and it just sort of a story I recently heard you tell clicked for me here. Shout out to the guys on the Game Related podcast. You told the story about how you ended up at Maryland and the influence that Roger Mason, a Cavalier, had on you coming to Maryland. And as a Wizards fan, I love Roger anyway, but I'm glad for the part he played in helping you end up a Terp. Would you mind talking about that a little bit here too?
Yeah, I mean, like I said on the other podcast, that Roger, we have a good relationship. He's always been like an older brother to me, and this process of going through basketball, I've had a lot of people that I could actually like try to talk to, but within my family, I was kind of first generation in this. A lot of my family was all military. They grew up Air Force or Army, Navy, Marines. So I was the first one to actually go through college, high school, college, graduate, get drafted, all of that stuff. Roger had went to good counsel prior to me. He went to college, was a great player at UVA, got to the NBA, played for all kinds of teams. We actually were in San Antonio together for the first year I was there. And so he was just somebody that I really paid a lot of close attention to and asked him for a lot of advice. And so when I was going through my college selection process, we talked about it, and he was just saying that, for me, just the type of player that I wasn't a fit that he thought at the time, he thought that it would be better if I went to Maryland. He thought Maryland was just a better fit for me. Yeah. And I just took that because Virginia was one of my top schools too. Virginia was Providence. I really wanted to go to Providence. Providence was going to be a good school. I went up there for my visit with, and what's his name, Brian Gomes. He was the guy that I had shadowed, and they showed me a really good time. And at the time, they were in the Big East. Providence wasn't a bad team at all. Yeah. So I had some schools that I really was looking at. But Roger, it was like Maryland would probably be a better fit, and that's why I chose Maryland.
Yeah, I had never heard that, and I thought that was really cool and awesome of him to do and give you just the best basketball advice and not try to steer you toward his alma mater or anything like that. That's selfless. I appreciate him.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like that, man. It was definitely just on some love, and I always appreciate all the advice he's ever given me.
Yeah, I think Terps fans right now just became a lot bigger fans of Roger Mason along the way here too, just because of that. So that's cool. You're from the area here, right? You grew up in that area. You went to good counsel, went to Maryland, back here in the area, right? So to me, the NIL space is amazing, and guys deserve to make whatever they can make. And you would have made a lot of money as a fun, exciting player, I'm sure. But I do think being known for my program, right? I am a Terp. I spent 4 years at one school, and being able to have that and come back to that, I think it's kind of like an underrated value thing for guys to have those relationships and ties to one program. I think is something that maybe guys aren't thinking about as much right now, and we might see a little bit more of that over time. So as someone who's got a DMV guy with DMV ties. Can you talk a little bit about what that relationship is like for you?
I mean, it's important to build relationships. It's important to build relationships. It's important to have that close by. But as far as like with the new NIL regulations and everything, I think it's deserved, but I think that there needs to be a baseline. Right now, there's no baseline. Teams can't compete with, or schools, not teams, but schools can't compete with certain schools. Like American can't compete with the Kentucky. George Mason can't compete with, I don't know, Kansas. But these players that might be coming from these areas will get that type of offer. And it's not fair. I think that there has to be a baseline for where schools can offer a certain limit, and have some more control over it, because it is deserved, but it needs to be controlled. And I think maybe at this time, because it's so new, that it might get worse before it gets better. But in the time, it's going to be, a lot of lessons learned. Kids, they do need to become financially, literate now.
It's huge.
Parents too, not just the kids, but you're forcing these kids now to be professional players. They're 15, 16, 17 years old, and they're receiving money now, from high school, and then they're going to college. They're being paid like professional athletes. They're signing contracts now. So you technically are now a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just a student athlete anymore. Yeah. You're a professional student athlete.
Yeah, for sure.
You got an image now.
Yeah,
it's big. All of
that branding yourself is a huge part. Yeah.
You represent the company now. You're getting paid for this now. So now all of your stuff has to be different. You have to move different. You can't move like we used to. But at the same time, that's something that, again, has to be learned along the way. And hopefully people a lot more pick it up than don't, But I do think it is a good thing. And at the end of the day, it's something that I think will grow to be better.
Yeah, I think this is the figure it out period for everybody. We'll figure out how to kind of work within the framework of everything and get a system going together here too. And whatever it is, I hope it works out in Maryland's favor selfishly. So we'll see how it all plays out.
We look like we're doing a good job, as far as recruiting. Yep. We just brought in a guy like Derek Queen. I mean, the football team, they just made a big signing, with the quarterback and everything. Mm-hmm. And the guys that they're bringing in, the 5-star recruits and 4-star recruits. So, I mean, Maryland's moving in the right direction when it comes to it. And that's a big thing.
I think one way to get sort of a fan base or an alumni group, reinvigorated by a team is also kind of, bring back that history and the nostalgia of past teams and sort of get them excited about, the highlights of former Terp teams and stuff like that. And it's one of the reasons I think that this Shell Shock alumni team is such a good idea. And you see some of the bigger schools with bigger fan bases, like trying to do that and pour energy back into that, because it's a way to reconnect with former players. And I think having guys like you locally too, there are things you could pass on to guys that are playing. Like, I don't know that Maryland has had that sort of tie back to past generations as much as some of these other, big name Power 5 schools. So that's my take on sort of the idea of an alumni team. But from your perspective, how do you see that?
Right. Well, I mean, I agree. When the TBT tournament, the basketball tournament started a few years back, I did the first two, I think it was. Yeah. My team was the City of Gods. I had a few of the guys, local guys, that were ex-basketball players. Mm-hmm. And we enjoyed it, man. We had a really good time in that tournament. And you saw the buildup of what they were trying to do and what it's building into now, of kind of getting ex-players from colleges playing for teams where past fans, haven't heard about them, and they get to see them again.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you got schools like, hey, we can get a team. This school can get a team. You get all your past players that have played, and now it's starting to grow into something big. And so I think that that's something that is huge when it comes to, growing the fan base, marketing, and things of that nature. And it would be dope to see if Maryland could put something like that together. I know they have tried over the years to do teams like that. It's not like they haven't tried. It just hasn't been something that where they can get all the past players to be able to come together in that sense, or the players that, I don't know, people really want to see, I guess you could say in that manner, on the team, and something behind it that's going to push it. But, I guess the biggest thing is that it's a winner take all thing. You're playing, and it's like, you don't know.
Yeah, it's a risk, right? Like, you're putting a lot of time into something that may not pay off.
it's the winner take all thing, and that's the thing when you put guys that are so competitive to that nature on there, and it's like goes to that point. It can go good, it can go bad. It's things that can go with it. So it's a lot, but I think it's something that will bring a lot of attention to it, and it's fun. It is fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate the perspective as someone who's been in the event here. So that is the plan this year: load the squad up and see how we can do it. Maybe we could convince you to come out of retirement here for a couple weeks in the summer. We'll see. How you're feeling, but I think that's super cool just to get like exactly how you put it. I think it's perfect of just maybe some guys that people haven't seen as much because they've been having good international careers. We just don't have the same access to, international basketball. You can't watch Melo Trimble go play for, Mega Basket or whoever he's going to end up with next year. So this is an opportunity to kind of check in with him.
These guys are really having amazing careers over there. That's the thing, you kind of are out of sight or out of mind because you can't tap in. And like you said in the beginning, with being on the same time zone right now, we're here in Maryland, so it's cool. We can talk easy. I don't have to wait till 2 a.m. in the morning to be on your time zone. But at the same time, their seasons are so long, and so when they do get a chance to come home, their off season is very short. I remember when I was playing, especially EuroLeague basketball for 13 years. My off season was 6 weeks. I would get home end of June, maybe the first week of July, and then training camp starts second week of August.
That's crazy.
So you're right back out. So, you come home and you really don't have time to do a lot. You want to see friends. You got to work out. You got to do all this stuff. And the last thing you want to do is be playing in something that you get hurt in, and now you can't play for the team that you actually have a contract for.
Exactly. That's the big thing.
So it's a lot of things, and the guys do want to play, but this is our livelihood. This is our job. So it's understanding that some guys just can't make it. It's not because we don't want to. It's because, look, I'm here for 6 weeks. I got to get out of here soon, and I might not be here this weekend. I got to see some family.
I think maybe the secret sauce for this is some of the guys that are looking to expand their profile and get attention of bigger international teams too, because they're going to play against high level competition in this tournament. And it's even more film that they can show too.
It's crazy because you're getting time on ESPN, and this is during the time where there's no NBA going on really. Football is not really going on either. It's like, it's the summertime. So it's kind of dry, but you're on ESPN. Especially if you make it to the end, you're on there during the time of the day where everybody's kind of at home, just chilling, trying to see what's on TV. Let's watch this. And some guys really get contracts off of that. I feel like somebody got NBA contract off of that one year.
Yeah, they did last year. Yeah.
I know the year that we lost in the Final Four in New York, we lost to Overseas Elite. And I got Kyle Fogg and DJ Kennedy. They went off for like 30, 40 points. And next thing you know, they're signing contracts here left and right. So, you can definitely get exposure off it if you put your game forward. People are watching and paying attention to it.
Yeah, they've pivoted to Fox Sports, but same premise. It's a huge network. And either way, you've got that clips of, hey, I went against this guy that is on a EuroLeague team. Now, if I'm on a Euro Cup team, I've got that to show as, hey, I can definitely hang at that level.
Yeah, they're definitely in it. You're putting together a team in a small bit of time, and you're expecting them to come together and play top basketball. And now they got this new ending, the Elam ending, which is kind of weird for me because I'm just used to going to the buzzer, going with guys. That's it. But it's just making it more competitive. Guys are really having a lot of fun, and the fans are really getting into it. Some of these schools really have a good fan base, and so you want to see guys like the Terps. Get in there because we've always had a top 5 fan base. And so that's my thing is I would like to see that.
Yeah, same here. As a fan of the game too, and the Terp yourself, any former Terps that you'd like to see show up on the Shell Shock alumni team here?
I'd probably say Landon Milburn.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Landon Milburn.
That'd be great. I love Landon. Yeah, another guy. We're the same age too, so enjoyed watching him throughout his Terps time too. That'd be great. Who's the next guy we should talk to? Next former Terp we should talk to on the podcast?
Next former Terp you guys should talk to on the podcast. Have you guys got Walt Williams on here?
No, I've not had Walt. I've talked to Walt on a podcast before, but not on this one. You can't mess with the wizard. That's perfect. He'd be a great one to have on.
So you guys should try to get Walt.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be my next ask here. It's probably a little tougher for him during the season. Maybe I can find a downtime in the Terp schedule a little bit.
I got you. Definitely. It's virtual though. So I mean, hey.
It helps. That makes it a lot easier. I'm telling you, that's the main reason for doing this thing remote like this. The scheduling is easy. I am appreciative that we're in the same time zone here. When I did the last one with DeMonte Dodd, he's in Japan. So I was doing it at like 2 a.m. just trying to
See, I understand.
make it work. Yeah, very cool.
So no problem. I really appreciate it again for having me. You know, it's always a pleasure to be a part and support.
Yeah, thanks, James. We'd love to have you back on throughout the year here just to catch up on how the Terps are doing. I look forward to seeing more media stuff from you and you as you grow in the coaching world. You got a whole Terp Nation here rooting for you.
No problem. Let me know, and look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, everybody, you know the drill here. Rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button for us. We're presented by Vision Media Solutions, and we will check y'all next time.